You talked about how it kind of got worse before it got better. And I just am curious to know, was there a moment that occurred where you finally had to kind of take a hard look and say, hey, like this, what I'm doing in my life is not working. This illness is a manifestation of my pain and I need to do something different? Or was it a gradual thing for you?
Both.
Okay.
And those feelings of major uncertainty and confusion, they occurred for me when I approached crossroads and I thought I can go this direction, this direction, this direction. When I was sick, one of the major directions I could have gone was suicide. And that's something that I dealt with severely. And I do want to talk about that as well, because I almost went for it. And I would not be here today to talk had I gone that way. And it's like when you're at these major crossroads and you have so many options, I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed at going one way and just committing to going that way, and because it may fail, and we may have to, what people perceive as go back, take steps back. It's not taking steps back though. So through my healing journey, I did try this experimental diet, this experimental medication. I literally tried a medication that was experimental at one point. And this medication, I was told by one doctor, has been being studied. It's studied still today, because this is only a few years ago, to heal people with autoimmune disorders, because supposedly it lowers their antibody count. And it's not exactly understood why or how. So anyways, I was put that, like, these are just experiments. And I did go far and go deep into some of these paths and ways, and then end up either coming upon more crossroads or feeling like I could not advance anymore in that way, and that I needed to reevaluate the situation. And in those moments, I did, and I still do, because I experience this today, I feel fear and apprehension, because it's so scary to go for it. And it may feel easier to just stay in the comfortable, even if you're in pain and suffering, in the place that you're in now. And
yeah, there's no one size fits all, treatment plan to autoimmune disease. It sounds to me like it has to be an exploration of, what does my body need? What is my body saying to me? How does my body respond to this and that? And is this right? Because not everybody is going to find the same benefits, with the same treatments.
So at 16, when I went to the original doctor who found that my thyroid hormones were low and my vitamin D hormones were low, at that time, the biggest question in my mind, although I was sick and my thoughts were so clouded, my big question was, why are my thyroid hormones low? Why is my body not producing a sufficient quantity of these hormones? And so, yes, I was prescribed this medication to take to regulate that level, which wouldn't even regulate it. It would just bring it up to the level that it's supposed to be, because my level was low. When I received the diagnosis that day, that in that time, of hypothyroidism, that the literal definition of that is low thyroid. And so I thought, what is causing this? I believe that there's something associated with this. And when I received the diagnosis at 16 years old of hypothyroidism, that's not an autoimmune disorder, and that was not my autoimmune diagnosis. I did not receive my autoimmune diagnosis until about 2 years later. I believe I was 18 at the time, through a different doctor, after having seen a handful of doctors. And it was through a blood test that was done that revealed antibodies being produced in my thyroid gland. So looking back now, I'm not even sure if there were antibodies being produced in different tissues throughout my body, but there was a test that was administered on my thyroid, and it did show antibodies. And the antibody quantity was like through the roof. It was crazy bad. And what that means is my body was producing cells that are human cells. However, those cells were pretty much, they were what people say is attacking, but they were, yes, like consuming my own body. And it's crazy because the original issue manifested in my thyroid gland. And at the time, I lived in a smoker's home, and I had this bad romantic partner who told me to shut up.
Holy throat chakra.
And yes, all of this is throat.
Yes.
And I was so quiet at the time. I stayed so closed off. And that is just like a major suffocation. I felt myself suffocating. I felt like I was drowning. And
did you have belief systems in your past that were focused around that you didn't feel heard or you didn't feel worthy to have a voice? Do you think that that came from your childhood?
No. There are issues related to shame in my family, both my mother's side and my father's side. And I do believe I have been affected by those adverse, like ways of being, because it's like one of the major philosophies that my American family at least live by is this concept of like adultism, where the adults are always in the right and the children are ignorant, and the children must respect the adults. It can never be the other way around. And if ever it is, the children are just totally punished for ever trying to express themselves. And so, yeah, like issues like that, yes. However, I came from a family that was very loving. My mother's side is Appalachian. My father's side is Mexican, native from Mexico. So they're Native American, really. However, like, they're very loving people. And I was multiracial growing up in a suburb of Dayton and around a lot of people who were blonde-haired, blue-eyed. Really, my family, blonde-haired, blue-eyed. But they still accepted me. And I hear stories today. I'm 22 years old now. And I hear my parents now reflecting back to me on the experiences they've had throughout their lives. And at my age, they were meeting each other. And my mother brought my father back to the suburb. And he experienced like racism, yes. But really, it's because he was just so different. And today, me looking at who I am, I'm so different. And it's not just that I'm different from everybody at my workplace or everybody even in my family. It's just that I'm so individual. Like,
yes.
Yeah, it's a true fact.
The second I saw you, I'm like, oh wow, who is this creature? I need to know her.
And every day it's like I'm trying to get to know myself.
Yeah. Because
I know I'm affected by my ever-changing environment. And so it's like, in a way, I'm ever-changing. So it's not that so much time passes and suddenly I do not know who I am. Like, I'm going to try to avoid that by just being with myself every day, knowing that I am always changing, transforming. So that I don't just wake up and have an identity crisis of who am I? Because I sort of believe that's what happened to me at 16. Okay. Yes, at 16, 16 to 18, like those years, many people end up like forming diseases, really. That's when they're diagnosed with schizophrenia and like these terrible diseases. But now, after studying biology and human anatomy and physiology, I know now that around that age, there is a rush of hormones that happens. And it's because that's like another wave of us physically growing. It's a growth spurt again. And so it's not necessarily bad that people at that age feel confused because there's so much change happening internal. It can be an issue though when the outside environment is not like accommodating all of the change that's happening internal. So like when you're in a dangerous place or or like just a bad place that's not comforting to your transformation, then that's when there can be confusion as far as your self development.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a lot of people go through that because at 16 and 17 you're trying to like embrace your own identity. However, if you're in a house with parents who are drunk or like, they're not like supporting a stable home for you to grow within, then that's when you're just like this like beast that's lashing out. You can be lashing out.
And especially if you're ill and being confused by your body and feeling betrayed by your body.
Mm. And my body turned against itself. And it's sad that happened. And I thank God that I pushed through and I survived.
It's amazing to me. I would like for you to talk a little bit about, you talked about how you dealt with the physical aspects of your illness. But I want to hear more about how you began to change your belief systems and your psychology in relation to what your sickness was.
Okay.